All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. We are going to pick up where we left off last night. Let me see. Am I actually live on the Twitch side? It looks like my little preview isn't working, but Tammin, it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I guess I am live. Yeah, looks like I am on the YouTube side. Okay. Sometimes that thing bugs out. Twitch's interface isn't always the best. Anyway, so we're going to pick up where we left off on the last stream. I did fix a couple things offline. I didn't really get too much done. We were most of the way there last night, but I did, as you can see, actually get some more stuff up and running. So we're going to take a look at that. Before we do, though, I do want to just take a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with the elite partner Javier Olazaran, followed by the partners Gerbolis Inc. and Matt Osgard. Those are the highest tiers of subscription over on Patreon and YouTube memberships, followed by the list of supporters you see here on the screen. They are a combination of the other levels of support over on Patreon and YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly, greatly appreciated and helps me cover the cost of running this channel. So it covers things like software licenses, hosting fees, equipment costs, things like that. So any of that help is definitely huge, and I greatly appreciate it. With that said, I also appreciate the support from all of you, the viewers, whether you're catching me live here on the YouTube side or the Twitch side. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Without you guys, this project and thus this channel would not exist. So thank you guys very much for being here. Tammin, thank you for confirming that for me, by the way. Appreciate that. How have you been, by the way? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at here. I do actually have a lot of the debug data up and running and working, displaying, as you might expect. There are some issues with it, which we'll go into here in just a moment, but so essentially, we've got sort of an array of boxes here. So we've got these, I can actually blow this up a little bit. So we've got these white boxes, which are essentially the BVH leaves, right? So that's the end nodes in the scene, right? So that represents the individual entities around the world. And so each one of those things is represented visually by a white box, right? So we see that we've got a variety of them around in the scene. Some of them don't quite line up as they should, so we'll have to fix some of those issues as well. Like this tree here, for example, the bounding boxes aren't completely surrounding that for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why, but we'll figure that out. There are some other ones in here that I'll identify here in just a second. I'll show you guys how we're going to do that. And then all of the sort of red boxes that you're seeing here, the boxes, not necessarily this sphere here, but the boxes themselves, those are the individual sort of nodes of the BVH. And so I did kind of rethink the way that I was handling where the storage of all that stuff is going to go. And so we'll go over that as well, but let's put it this way, it's separate completely from the scene hierarchy as it should have been initially. So we can see here that we've got parent objects or parent BVH nodes that sort of encompass more than one node, and we can use those to drill down. The other big thing that gives us is if you'll just kind of watch the console down here as I click around, raycasting is in. And that actually was something that I was able to sort of lift from the testbed library and re-implement here, and it's a lot quicker and a lot easier to use. So I'm clicking the skybox on purpose to show you that there's nothing hit, but if I come in here and I actually click a particular type of entity, for example, I'll click this sort of mesh here. You can see that we got multiple results, right? So we got a static mesh entity that isn't named anything. We got a audio emitter, and we got the water plane, right? So the audio emitter is this box right here, this red box. And visually also it's represented by this orange sphere in terms of where its actual radius ends. So that's a representation of the radius, and the red box is a representation of where it is in the actual world as far as the BVH is concerned. So in order to select that, I would actually just have to click anywhere in that larger box, right? Now you'll also notice that I'm getting the test water. So that's the water plane here. If I just click on that, I'll just get that by itself. And you'll notice that there's a large box that kind of goes all the way around the scene, that kind of contains everything at its max, and that is including the water plane, of course, right? So that is working as well. I can also come over here and click this tree as well. So now we can kind of select objects, or at least click them for now. We can get the type of entity it is, the name of it, and of course that means we can pull other kinds of properties from it as well. So over here there's a couple more entity types. So if I click this guy, there's, let's see, we got the portal to zone 2, right? So that's represented, the radius of that, or the collision radius of that, is represented by this yellow sphere here. And then we have a static mesh entity named null, which means it just doesn't have a name. And that is that cube there. So we'll have to check those to make sure that they actually aren't named in the scene file, but I'm pretty sure it's correct. Then we also have another empty node over here. That's actually called fire, and that's one of the issues that I'm talking about, is that's actually not where the fire node is. The fire node is actually over here where this sound emitter is. So I'm not 100% sure why that's not moving to where it should be. So we're going to have to figure that out, among other things. And then finally we have the point light over here, which is a point light entity named firelight. Which I don't remember if I actually did parent all this stuff. So we're going to have to look at some of that and see why some of these things are appearing like they do. But at least we do have the ability to visualize our BVH as well as all of the nodes within that. Now, some of the other weird things is we've got some issues around when we actually move. Some of the boxes get a little bit wonky, and I think I know why that's happening. But you see how some of them kind of flash and whatnot. But in general, the BVH is working. The raycasting does work. And lookups into the scene seem to be working. So, we get roughly the right result here. We just have a little bit of tweaking and probably some adjusting and bug fixing to do. All right, let me catch up on chat. Singy over on the YouTube side, hello, how are you? Good to see you. Let's see. Smudge, we appreciate you too. I appreciate that. Yep. Welcome. Sorry I'm a bit behind. BVH is bounding volume hierarchy, correct? Yes, that is correct. Luna Moon, good to see you. Hello. All right. And of course, Ruche is in there. All right. So, a lot of this stuff is actually kind of working as we expect, right? We just have some kind of minor things to work out. Another thing, we've kind of got a little bit of an issue here with, our, let's see, let me actually click this from a different angle, right? So here we actually have a static mesh named null, our entity named player, so that's our parent sort of entity in the scene, and then within that it's got the static mesh entity. So I could just click the static mesh entity itself, or I can click the parent node, and we get those things. I would argue that perhaps the parent node, even though it doesn't have extents of its own, maybe should encompass the entirety of everything it owns, right? So whenever we click on, thank you for the sub, by the way, the Prime sub. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Pork Nachos. Love the name, by the way. So when we just click on this guy, actually, are we getting all of them? No, we're not. We're getting the water plane. Let me actually click off on this a couple times. So I think all we get is just the static mesh entity and the test water. So it'd be nice if, we didn't have to necessarily click this. Although I don't know that that's necessarily optimal either. Maybe it's not. I don't know. We'll have to mess around with it and see. But one of the first things I kind of want to figure out is this flickering issue, because it's kind of annoying. And what I suspect is happening here is having to do with the way that we're actually pooling the vertex data for these objects. So let's talk about that for a minute. So I'm going to bring this actually over here a little bit. And you'll notice that the base entity has been cleaned up a little bit. We kind of moved some things around a little bit and actually simplified some code. I took all of the rendering stuff out of the BVH. It really didn't belong there. The BVH is really, its only job is for queries and to have that, three-dimensional representation. And that's it, right? So we've completely removed all of that stuff. Thank you for the follow, by the way. And so all of that stuff is actually now stored within the scene itself, and we'll get to that in a second. So on the base entity, we have extents. We talked about that last time. In some places, this wasn't being set. So now we always make sure to set extents on here so we at least have something show up. And of course, the BVH ID that the entity is associated with. And then as far as the debug data index, we've already talked about that. So if I go down here to the scene itself, we have this kind of new section down here. So we had the BVH tree before, and we have this BVH transform here. So what this is this is essentially a default transform that we use when we render all of the BVH nodes. We have to provide a transform of some sort whenever we do rendering of debug data. And generally that's a identity transform, but instead of creating new ones all the time, we just create one here and cache it. So the big change is we have what we're loosely calling a pool, right? And so we have this sort of BVH debug pool size, and that's basically how many BVH nodes that we can actually store. I think I've defaulted that to 256, but we can move it around. But we actually store two sets of things within that pool. So we actually have a collection of scene debug data, which right now only contains geometry, right? So I could have just stored geometry, like a bunch of K geometries, just as easily. But if I ever want to add anything to this, it'll make it really easy to do. So I went ahead and wrapped that in a struct. And in fact, I actually see now that I forgot to actually put that in debug only. So let me fix that. And then, so we have a bunch of those, and then we also have a bunch of position vertex 3Ds. And so the reason that we do this, and this is also the size of that pool, right? The reason that we do this is because now we have a big contiguous block of vertex data that we can use for each individual thing. So this goes back to keeping data contiguous as much as possible to speed things up, right? So if we were to just go into each one of these geometries and allocate a new array of vertices for each one of these, we'd be jumping all over the place in memory, right? Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so instead of doing that, since this is a pointer, right? It's technically an array, but since it's a pointer under the hood, that means we can point it to anywhere in memory. And so we are going to take advantage of that within the scene itself. And go over here. And we go ahead and create the entire vertex pool all at once, right? So we basically say how many vertices we're going to need. Now, we can do this because we know that the size of all of these boxes for geometry data is the exact same, right? So we can actually just grab a whole huge array of a bunch of these and just use the debug pool size to tell us how many, right? So there's 24 vertices in each one of those boxes. And so we need 24 verts per box times the number of boxes, right? And then we also have the debug data here. And so what this allows us to do is now we can actually have a total size here and call the render buffer allocate and allocate it all in one shot, which is infinitely faster than calling allocate a bunch of times on a bunch of different geometries, right? So we can get all of that memory at once allocated on the actual GPU vertex buffer. And then we do iterate these once, right? So we go through the entire array of the debug data and we set a bunch of things, right? So we set the geometry type, the element size, which is always going to be the same, the vertex count, which again is always going to be the same. And then we actually use the giant vertex pool for our vertex array, right? So all we do is offset into that pool. So we say the pool plus 24 times I, right? So since that pool itself is an array of position vertex 3D, we're basically saying move 24 verts at a time times however many boxes we are currently at as we're iterating this, right? And then, that's just an address in memory, so that becomes our array. And it's just a very simple way to set this up, and it's also much faster. And then all we do is for the vertex buffer offset, we actually do something very similar, but we use the start offset. So the start offset is what winds up getting set here when we allocate the vertex buffer memory, right? So all we have to do for the vertex buffer position, right, or the offset within that buffer, is we say, okay, from the start offset that we have, when we allocated that big pool of memory, we just move in times, the size of a vertex 3D times 24 per box times how many boxes. And that means that we can always deal with all of this in one large chunk of memory. And then the other benefit to this is when we go to upload it to the GPU, we can just slam the whole thing over at once, which is much more efficient. When you're uploading data to the GPU, you don't want to be doing a bunch of calls to that if you can avoid it. So now we can actually do it all at once. And so we do that in the frame prepare so that we can work that into the frame workload, which is what this last property over here is. And that's just done at the beginning of the frame. So I hope that makes sense. Let me catch up on some chat. Let's see. Do you have your engine freely available? Yes. However, I do not recommend using it yet because it's still in its infancy. But, feel free to use it as a resource. Here, let me actually... So, kohiengine.com, and I'll drop a link in chat. Well, maybe. I think the bot is not working on the YouTube side now. Great. That seems fine. Gonna have to fix that again after stream. I'll just drop that in there. So kohiengine.com is sort of the main portal for the project. And if you scroll down here, there's a contribute on GitHub link. If you click that, it takes you right to the engine. The engine itself is Apache 2.0 licensed. So it's completely free and open source. This basically means if you want to use it for commercial or personal, it does not matter. All that I ask is that you say that you use it. The engine itself will always be in free and open source. There will never be any sort of royalties or licensing fees of any kind. This is an educational exercise, so I believe that stuff should be free. That is not going to be true for the game itself that I'm building on top of it, at least not right away. But the engine itself will be available. Sorry I can't stay long. Just wanted to drop in and say hi. See you at work tomorrow. All right, I appreciate that. Yeah. I just realized who you are, too. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I didn't pick up on the name right away. Took me a second. Okay. LSR, good to see you. Apotham, good to see you as well. Hope you guys are doing all right. Okay. I think I answered all the questions for now. So, what I think is happening here that's causing the flickering is we essentially are setting up this data every single time. So essentially what we're doing is we are going through in the updates in our recalculate transforms. We are going through and creating BVH updates, right? And we're just doing this within the sort of scene hierarchy, right? So we're saying we're just updating all of the leaves throughout the entire scene. And I think what this is probably causing is I'm thinking it's probably we're winding up removing and adding things to this pool. And I think some of the entries that aren't getting removed from the pool correctly or not getting reset correctly when they go to actually be rendered is what's causing some of the flickering. So I think we've got entries in there that are sort of stale by the time we actually get ready to render the frame. That probably shouldn't be rendered at all. And so I am thinking when we go through to, let's see, get debug data, I am actually thinking when we're doing this bit, we are looping through each one of the nodes and then looping through, let's see. So we have, so we're setting the render data here. This is where it's indexing it out of the pool. I wonder if this feels wrong to me. I think because I feel like when we update that pool, we may not necessarily, we might have sparse entries. Let me think about this. So when we go to render, the problem also is when we go to render, ooh, I might have a problem here with, this might actually be a bit of a race condition. Because we call the update at a fixed number of times per second versus rendering, right? So we might actually be in the middle of an update when we're doing that. I've got a lot of to-dos in here to fix. So I wonder if we should do in recalculate transforms. Where are we actually updating? Where are we actually updating the geometry? Are we doing that in more than one place? Because if we are, that is wrong. I think I got rid of all of those except that one. So we should only be updating it in the one place. But when we're updating that, are we actually... We're doing this, but I don't think we're actually setting the vertex data at all. Is that right? Oh, here we're doing it. Oh, we're doing it in updates.
Hi from Brazil.
Pierre, thank you so much for the Prime. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support very much. Thank you. And hello. We have quite a few folks in here from Brazil. Taman is one of them. I haven't seen Trash Can in a while, actually, but he's another one that was a regular here. But yeah, we have a few folks from Brazil. I want to say that like 14% of my audience is actually in Brazil, which is awesome. So welcome. Let's see. What do you use? What do you mean by that, Freestyle? Let's see. How do you handle recalculating the transform hierarchy? When you move parent transform, did you just set some dirty flag on all children, or you recalculate all tree transforms? So right now we're doing it the dumb way, which is recalculating all tree transforms, which is obviously not the ideal way. But that is the way that we're handling it for now. But I do have dirty flags in the transform system itself. It's just we've got a little bit of work to do to figure out when we change, when we actually change a transform and we go to update it, we need to also flag its children to be dirty as well, so that they get updated. But we also need to make sure to not necessarily do updates lower in the tree and then find out later on that maybe we also have an update further up in the tree, right? So we need to probably be a little bit smarter about that in the future. But for right now, I think it's perfectly fine to just brute force update them all and not switch on it, because it's still pretty fast. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Cool's guy, first time chatter and follower. Appreciate that very much. Welcome. Oh, what IDE or program do you use? Okay, this is NeoVim. So if you're interested in that, although if you haven't used Vim before, this might not actually make a whole lot of sense, but there it goes. All right. There's a write-up of my NeoVim config. If you're interested, I'll post this on the Twitch side too, just in case you guys want it. So it's an article I wrote up containing my configuration, what plugins I'm using, how I've got it set up, and why. And then a link to an actual copy of the .dot file that I use for it. What are you doing at the moment? Obviously programming, but what specifically? So we just put in a bounding volume hierarchy. And we are putting in debug data for that. So we actually have that working, but there's, just a couple of small issues with it. Like this flickering that you see as it's, fighting to sort of update. So it's just stuff like that I've got to figure out. But yeah, that's kind of what we're building at the moment. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I've got some other things I kind of want to move on to. If we don't figure this out in the next few minutes, and I'll just figure this out off camera. But let's see. So this is recalculate boxes for every BVH node. So we go through here. Recalculate line by extents. And that's for each node's extents. We probably ought to do a quick check and say if n height is greater than or equal to 0. Then we want to do this. Otherwise, we probably don't want to be doing that because we only want to use nodes that are either a leaf or an internal node. And so we don't want to do this against free entities as well, or free nodes as well. That actually is probably going to be quite a bit of a speed up, I would imagine. Yeah, a little bit, actually. It's still not 100% correct, though. It looks like it's kind of fighting for... That's interesting. Okay. It's almost like we have leaf nodes like almost fighting for, like, this looks like a higher up node here, but then if we hit it every time it just right, it looks like a leaf. So that's a little bit weird. I think what we should probably also do is, if we're not doing this, we should probably have some sort of way to flag this to not be rendered, perhaps. Actually, aren't we already doing that? We might already be doing that. Let me see in the get debug data. We do get a total count. So that tells us how much that we can allocate out of for our array for the frame. And then we also do that check here. And only if we do that do we actually add it to the array. So this actually should be handling that. We loop through the entire capacity. And then I don't quite see why this is fighting. So if we have on this, if we have a height of -1, that means the node is free, right? Which is why we do the greater than 0 check. 0 is a leaf, meaning it's all the way at the bottom. And then greater than 0 is internal, which is basically means it's a parent node, right? And so we use, we say if there is any sort of height at all, then, and it's obviously going to be positive at this point, right? Positive or greater than or equal to 0. So if the height is here, then we go ahead and calculate a color based off of the height. So basically the higher it goes, the darker red it becomes. Otherwise we use white in order to represent the node, and that is for the case of 0, which means it's a leaf. So I think that actually is doing what it should be doing. I wonder if I'm going to have to like triple buffer this somehow. I might actually have to. I might actually wind up having to do that, which is kind of annoying. I might actually have to triple buffer the vertex data. Because now what I'm thinking is happening is not quite as simple as what was happening before. So I think we've probably got like a write after read type of situation going on. Let's see. Thank you for the sub over in the YouTube side. Appreciate that. Okay. So I think I'm going to walk away from this for now. Because the thing I actually want to focus on is object picking. Because we already have, we know at least the picking aspect of this works, right? So I can already go in here, I can load up a scene, and I can, click something to select, fire emitter, test emitter, whatever. And I can click on objects like this, right? And it gives me the entity and all that other good stuff. So the way that this works is, I'm actually going to get rid of this second buffer over here. Whoops. Wow, I just completely quit that. All right. Apparently typed capital Q. So the way that this works is we actually have a I'll come back to that. So we actually have this Illumina scene raycast, which was a fix me on the last stream, right? So the first thing that we obviously do is we say, if we have a scene and we actually have a pointer to hold the result, then we go ahead and evaluate it. Otherwise, we just boot out, right? So that's really the only thing that can cause this to error out. So the BVH raycast is what handles the bulk of the work for us. Now, obviously, I need to add a fix me here. Hard-coded max distance. So essentially what we do is this takes an array that we've created, in the application. And then obviously a pointer to hold the result. And so we use that array, we pass the origin and the direction, right? Now I could pass the array structure itself, but I don't necessarily want to do that because we might have other scenarios where maybe we haven't generated one of those, and I don't want to be forced to do that. So we just pass them as separate properties here, and then of course the max distance that we're willing to actually do that raycast. And then we pass a callback, and so in this case we've got that assigned, and then we pass some sort of context along with it, and that context gets passed to this callback, right? So we pass the scene as the context because that's going to give us everything we need to know, and this on raycast hit is a callback function that should be static. And this is what's called on every single hit from the BVH, right? So every time we have a hit, we pass along the user data that's associated with that, with the node that was hit or the leaf that was hit, right? We only check leaves for hits. And then we pass along the BVH ID, and then sort of the min, which is the shorter sort of distance, and the max, which is the long point, right? And so you can subtract those two to get the actual distance. And then of course a pointer to the context, right? So out of that, we can take the context and obviously just cold cast it to a scene. We can get the entity from the user, because if you recall, when we create a BVH node, we pass the entity or the Illumina entity handle as the user data. So we get that here, and that's going to allow us to get everything else that we need, including the base entity, right? So we can get a pointer to the base entity this way. We can also get the type from it. And so as just an example of some of the things you can do, I've gone ahead and grabbed the name and the entity type as a string, right? And we just kind of echo this out, like hit an entity name to this, right? And then finally, the return type on this is a Boolean. So what this essentially means is whether or not this counts as a hit. The reason that we have this callback, the main reason, is because we say essentially we have a hit. Here's the thing that we hit. Do we want to count this or not? And so we could filter that by type, for example, or if the entities had masks on them, selection masks or something like that, we could filter it by that. And so having this callback executed on every single hit allows us to say, well, we want to ignore these types or something of that nature. And so what we could do is, we could very easily provide that in the context, which right now we're only passing the scene. Or we could, set some sort of flag on the scene, which I'm not a huge fan of, but we could do that too. To say, this is the type of stuff that we want to select. And then we can, switch on the type and, or any other property of it and go from there, right? So at that point, like I said, it returns true or false depending on whether you want to count the hit. And if it returns true, then the BVH actually keeps a hit cast result, or a raycast hit result. And so that is what is returned here, right? So this raycast result for right now just contains raycast hits, right? So this is a D array that's only created if a hit exists. And if we take a look at that, we've got a few things in here. Some of these are legacy things, right? But we have the type, we have a transform handle, we have a hierarchy node, which I don't even think that type's about to not exist, right? We have a K-transform parent handle, which I'm not 100% sure why we would have needed that. Yeah, I don't know, right? And then, of course, we have the position and distance, right? So what I'm actually thinking here, so this is in our geometry 3D, right? And so this is, of course, in the core library. So we don't want to put anything game specific here, right? So how do we pass along potential user data, as that can sort of be referenced out of our raycast hit. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to call this transform handle, and then I'm going to get rid of these two properties, and I'm going to replace them with I think let's do a type def U64. Actually, I can just use U64. Heck with that. Let's keep it simple. Let's use a U64, and we're just going to put user here. And the reason I chose a U64 is because we can either pass a number there, or we can pass a pointer and just cast it, right? Either way. Now we could have also, and I suppose we could also, instead of doing this, we could do a union. Oops, an untyped thing, right? And just void pointer, like user pointer, right? Along with a U64 user, whatever, right? And then you can access that either way, right? Why is that bleating? Oh. Probably because it wants that, right? So you could refer to this as, you could either refer to user pointer or user. I suppose we could do that, make it a little bit more user friendly, no pun intended. So if you go into the BVH here, we could essentially include the user data that we pass to that function along with it, right? So I believe the I think we just did BVH user data is just a U64. Yeah. So I think I am going to stick with the U64 thing, right? But I'm not going to put the raycast hit as like BVH user data. I think I'm just going to stick with this, right? I think that makes the most sense. Maybe we'll move this. I'll leave it there. It doesn't need to be really tightly packed either. This is not something we're going to do in tight iterations, I don't think. And also a K-transform is a U32, and yeah, so I'm not going to worry about that for right now. All right, so when we do this, we do a callback on this. And then where do we... Here we go. Down here. It's a little bit further. Okay. So we have distance. That's one thing we don't actually have is a vector 3 hit position. So we're gonna have to figure out some way around that. But we can do user here, and we'll do t nodes ID. Whoops, ID user. Okay. And so what this means is that we essentially pass the user data back out along with the raycast hit information. And we can use that user data to actually retrieve what we want on the other side of that. So if, for example, in our Illumina main that actually calls this, we should probably go over how this works, actually. So eventually what we have is an event handler here that I've got hooked up. I've shown you guys how to do this before, so I'm not really going to go into detail here. But on a event code button released, which is specific to a mouse button, we get which button it is. If it's the left button, then we go ahead and process this thing, right? So we do it on release. And so we grab the various pointers that we need. We grab the scene state, make sure that the scene is loaded. We could probably do some other checks like, various game state or other, various state checks before we actually do this. But then we get the view, the projection, and the origin, which is actually the camera position. We get the viewport rectangle from the current camera, which actually I guess this probably belongs up there. And then we go ahead and we grab the point in the scene, or the point on the screen rather, that was clicked, and we call ray from screen. And so this essentially creates a ray for us based on where we clicked on the screen. And so that's a function we went over a long time ago. I created a long time ago. Nothing has really changed there, aside from the fact that it now takes a vector2i and a rect2di instead of the floating point versions of those, because it makes a little bit more sense when you're dealing with screen. So we have the raycast hit result here, and here's where we actually call the raycast, right? So in here, we do hit count. So we say if we have a hits array at all, which you remember is only ever created if a hit exists, otherwise it's null. So if that exists, we do a darray length on it to find out how many hits we have, otherwise it's 0. If we don't have a hit count, we just say we don't have a hit count, right? So we could actually say, to do select anything that is currently selected. Okay. And then here is where we can actually do the processing on those various things that we have actually hit, right? So for each hit, we have a raycast hit, or is it ray hit? Raycast hit, yeah. So we'll just do, I think I just say hit, yeah. So we'll take the address of result hits sub I, And in here, we can go ahead and say Illumina, Illumina entity. There we go. And that's going to be hit user, right? And so obviously we could just cast that, right? And now we actually have a handle to the entity. So we could reach back out to the scene and say, hey, give me, whatever data there is for this particular entity. And we can go ahead and process it, right? We can also use this to say, hey, this entity is now selected. And we can add it to a selection list. And then, maybe we can do some sort of bulk processing on selected items. So before we jump into that, let me just catch up on comments here. How many years will the C language last? I don't know. It's been around over 50 years now, so I don't see it going anywhere. For sure. Glovani, how's it going? Hello. Let's see. The point that was clicked or the point where the release happened. It's technically the point where the release happened. Yeah. So if we want clicked, that's a separate event. Actually, do we have... I forget if we actually did a separate click or not. Yeah, we did. So if we have a press and release without significant mouse movement, we count that as a click. That's what it was. Yep. So in this case, yeah, I suppose I could have gone with clicked, right? But I went released here. And the reason I'm thinking released is because we can eventually use that to like make a box selection on the screen to select multiple things. For now, I'm not going to do that, but we can essentially run those things through the same code, or at least similar code. Psycode, how's it going? Good to see you. Struggling all day to port my renderer to allow partial command buffer recording. It's hard. Yes. It takes a bit to figure out for sure. Got synchronization down and still missing resource pre-update resources. So recording can happen fully lock-free and wait-free. Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. I haven't bothered with doing that yet. Typo there. Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah. I haven't really found the need to actually worry about that too much. So I haven't done it yet. But yes, I have done a little bit of that in the past, and it's a pain. Which is part of the reason I haven't done it here. Okay. So for each one of these hits, we could mark this as selected. So I think what we could do is we could actually even say, how do we want to do this? So I guess we could keep like a D array of these selected entities, right? And we should probably also, I'm trying to remember, I think this does closest object first. Did I sort it that way? I'm trying to remember. I think it does. So if I click this, it should give me the portal, then the static mesh, then the water. Yeah. Okay. So that's another thing that we could do is, we could pass options to it to say, only give me the first thing that actually qualifies. And so, we kind of need to think a little bit about how we want to actually handle some of these flags, right? So we probably are going to need to expand our interfaces with this stuff just a little bit more. Wouldn't say it's necessary to go full parallel recording, but I would like to do it once to learn. Yeah, that's fair enough. All my previous renderers were single-threaded recording. Yeah, and this one is too. Honestly, the only thing that I was thinking of multi-threading with this was texture uploads. And just use a different command buffer on a different thread for that. Instead of doing it how I'm doing it now, essentially. Okay. So, yeah, I guess that probably makes sense. So let's only, I guess, take the first one. And that is going to be a problem for things that you want to... Let me double check something, actually. So if I wanted to say, select just the static mesh, right? I'm thinking I would need to be... I'd probably have to have the camera like inside this volume, right? This volume entity, right? Or at least the AABB for that. So if I go inside of that, right, and I just really get up on it, doesn't look like that's going to work. So that may be something we have to kind of find a way to filter out. Like maybe we only start... Like there ought to be a way to filter out, like don't try to select anything behind the camera. Because I think if I do this, right, and go this way, nothing hits that way. So that does work. But I think it's counting this outer box because it's actually queried the graph for that. So we might have to do a check to say if we're inside of one of these boxes, if the origin of the ray is inside of a box, then don't count it. I'm thinking. How come Discord notifies me about your stream an hour late? Really? Did it take that long? Does the service just suck that much? It's possible. Oh yeah, it did just go off. What is going on with that? Okay. I may have to find a different way to do that. I've been sort of relying on the automated thing, but that kind of sucks. Has it always been doing that? No? Actually, it looks like this is the first time it's done it. Looking at all the previous timestamps, it actually looks fine. So I think it's just a fluke tonight. Something must have happened with it. Good question, though. We need a redeemable channel reward for push glasses up and say I use Arch, by the way. I could make it 1,000,000 points. I could do that, but I'm only going to do one or the other. How's it going, by the way, cell phone? All right. So I guess we should probably look. Suppose we should probably look in the BVH itself when we're doing the raycast. We should check the origin. I could have swore that I was taking that into account, but I might not have. So it's because it technically goes from Let's see. Warner, how's it going? First time chatter, welcome. First time here, what are you working on? So I'm just kind of looking at our new volume bounding volume hierarchy. I'm looking at that and just trying to troubleshoot some issues with it. We're working on object selection using that at the moment. And apparently my dyslexia is also extending to my speech today. But yeah, I think there's something in here that I'm going to have to think about when it comes to selecting an object that we're currently inside. We should not be able to do that. And I'm thinking it's something in here. I just have to find it. I'm thinking we probably need to clamp this somehow. Maybe if it's negative. Maybe if min is negative. I don't know if that's right. Whoops, what did I do? Oh. That's right. I would have broken that. Okay. Let's see. I think I want the... I guess I want the... Wait, what file was broken? Oh, the scene. The old scene. This is just transform handle. Node handle doesn't exist anymore. I'll comment that out. And then parent handle doesn't exist anymore either. Because I took that stuff out of the hit data because it's not a thing anymore. Dumb question since I just got here. I see you have both NeoVim and VS. I usually use VS and VS, just wondering what you use one versus the other for. Fair enough. So first off, I bleeped that word because it's a family-friendly stream. But, so I use NeoVim as my editor, and then I use that which shall not be named as my debugger. I only use this because it's a consistent experience cross-platform. So I'm supporting Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, and the debugging experience is relatively the same across all three, and it's the only one that really does that. So I'm using that for now until I find something better. What kind of game is it for? So we are going to be making a 3D isometric action RPG. And so we're just now getting to the point where, like, we're wrapping up a couple things on implementation, and then we're going to actually start writing some game code before too much longer. The only other thing that we have to do is at some point, I think I could probably start writing game code without it, but we're going to need it pretty shortly, is we do need to make an animation system. And I'm going to make a super simple animation system to start with. But yeah, we are going to need that. Aluminum main 1820. Okay. 1820. So that's, oh, right, because we haven't actually used it yet. Let me just do this and put a left off here. So it's highlighted. I can come back to it. Let me see if that fixed the selection problem. So I'll go really close to this guy. Nope, it didn't. Okay, so it's got to be something else. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now, but I am going to have to figure that out. So when I figure that out, I will bring up what it is, but it's obviously not that. All right. It's just so easy to go down the rabbit hole on things that just don't necessarily matter for the current goal. Okay, so selection list. So the way that our hits come back is they are always going to come back closest to furthest. And so with that, we can say, if we have a valid hit on something and we're sort of trying to select, then we're only going to select the closest thing, which means that we can essentially just take the first hit result and use it and discard the rest. Now, it's not necessarily something that we're always going to want to do for every single hit cast, right, or array cast. There may be situations where we want to select through stuff or raycast into the scene for other stuff besides just selection. But for right now, that's what we're going to do. So we'll go to the top here, and we'll do, let's see, I guess we should probably, how do I want to do this? I guess we could probably do it as a D array. It's probably going to be the simplest implementation of it, right? So this is going to be in debug mode because we'll have the editor. I guess I could put it... I guess it doesn't really matter. I can put it down here. So what we'll do is we'll have a Illumina entity selection list, right? And this is going to be a D array of selected entities. And what we'll do is here, we'll say if not, do we have state? Yeah. Oh, I don't want state, I want scene. Oh, wait a minute though. That's a good point. Selection set doesn't really belong here. It really does actually belong in the application state. So I'm thinking we should probably put, yeah, application state. Here we go. So I'll put this after UI state. I think I'm going to put like editor state here, right? And we will wrap this stuff in debug as well, because we're not going to ship the editor with non-debug builds. And we should probably have, now I'm actually kind of thinking we should probably have like an editor ifdef, right? Which would probably also be included in this file. So I guess let's go to the top and we'll do here and endif, and we'll do define Illumina editor, and we're going to set that to 1. And I guess we could also do, let's do an if instead of an ifdef. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So Illumina editor, I guess, is what we'll go with. So we'll go here, Illumina editor. So this will be just a D array that we'll use for selections, and we'll probably have to manage like editor mode, and we'll probably put the gizmo here and stuff like that. But for now, so we'll say if state selection list, or if not state selection list rather. Then we'll do state selection list equals darray create. What is going on with my... Okay, I guess it's just not gonna work for now. That's fine. Telesense being a bananas. So this is going to be Illumina entity is going to be the type of DRA. And then what we can do here is I think we can just do input is key down, and we're going to do keys. I guess it's going to be key. Oh, I guess, can I do, you know what? Let me not do that. It's been so long since I've actually looked at the input code that I actually have to look something up. Is down, was down. Do we actually have modifier keys? I guess I don't have to check it that way. All right, that's fine. Let me put so key control, right? So if the input key is down, then what we're going to do is we're going to add to the selection, right? And if it's not, we're going to clear selection, then push as first entry. So all we have to do here is actually, you know what? We don't even have to do this variant of it. We could just move this down here and then get rid of the else block. So let's actually just do darray clear state selection list, right? And then here we'll do darray push state selection list, and we'll do entity. Okay, and then at this point we will break, right? So only take the closest hit as the selection. Right, and then I guess just for debug purposes, we'll just go through here. We'll just do a loop real quick just to sort of tell ourselves, you know, what we've selected. So U32 rather, length is darray length, state selection list, and then for U32 I equals, oh wait, I can't use I, I'll use S equals 0, S is less than length plus S. And then I guess we can get the name of these, I guess. Get entity name, right? So we could do, let's get a convenience pointer to the zone scene. So Illumina scene. And we'll do current scene equals this. And then we'll do current scene there. Oh, I think I'm going to have to struct this out because it's actually internally defined. So we'll do current scene and then entity. And I think this returns that as a K name. Yes, it does. So we'll do K name name is equal to that. And then we'll do I guess we'll just do a kinfo for now. Selection. We'll number it, and then we'll do the name here. So we'll say S, and then wait a minute, did I do? Yeah, okay, that should be fine. Okay, so S, and then kname string get name. And then this actually belongs out here. Right, so whenever we select something new, or actually I guess we could actually technically do this every time we click, right? So I guess really it would be here, right? And then if we have state selection list, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll do 0 on that so we don't get an issue here. And then here, we'll need to do state selection list S. And then we'll do Illumina entity is equal to that. Oops. Can't type tonight, apparently. So current scene, I guess I just need to hoist that up further. Let's put that like up here. Okay, so we will essentially just do if not length, then we'll just say kinfo, whoops, kinfo, no selection, right? So we're going to get a lot of stuff in the console. We're going to get what the scene sees, and then we'll also get what our actual selection is. So we should be able to now click this, right? So we have selection 0, and it just keeps overriding selection 0, which is what we want. And it looks like it is only, in fact, grabbing the closest entity, which is perfect, okay? So now if I hold the control key, now we should actually get multiples, I think. Nope, maybe not. Why not? Let's see. So we push the entity no matter what to the selection list. I don't think we're clearing the selection, but maybe there's something happening with the key mapping that I'm not aware of. Yeah, it is clearing the selection. Is it not? Oh, why is it not? If not is key down. So it's not recognizing the control key being pressed. That's interesting. Nope, it's just called control. Oh, maybe it's L control or R control. I think I had a bug on that on the Windows platform that I might also have to fix on Linux. All right, let's do L control. That's what it was, right? Key L control. Yeah, okay. Why is it bleating? Oh, okay. All right. Let's see if that works. Okay, it didn't clear at that time. There we go. Okay, so now we're able to select multiple things. Now, obviously, if I click the same thing a bunch of times, it's just going to keep adding it, right? So that's obviously not ideal. But we do clear the selection if I don't hold control, which is good. So that works. I guess we should probably just do, for now, right, we'll just do it this way. We'll just do left or right control. Let's see. Let me scroll back here and catch up on comments. Apparently Rad Debugger's idea is also to be a Linux debugger. Very cool. Yeah, so I know he's working on a Linux layer for it, but I don't think it's done yet. And unfortunately, that still doesn't solve my problem that I also need it for Mac OS. And I don't know how much of a pain it's going to be to get it over there. It shouldn't be too huge of a leap from Linux, but soon enough I'll be able to run Rad Debugger on both, patiently waiting. Yeah. Will it be using isometric? Will it be isometric using an orthographic projection? So that's why I use the term isometric loosely, because I think I am going to keep perspective on it. I don't think I'm going to use orthographic projection. And it's not going to be locked always to a isometric perspective either. There's going to be certain levels or even parts of zones that you can go into where the camera angle is going to dynamically change. So for example, let's say you were going up a spiral staircase that was surrounding like a silo or something. There I might like cut to like a side camera angle that rotates around the whole thing as you kind of go up the stairs and follows you that way. So I do have plans to, change the camera angle on occasion and use curated camera angles as well. Would it be useful to have a selection list per scene? What might happen when the current scene changes? What might happen when current scene changes when entities are selected? So the reason I'm doing them this way, and obviously when we unload a scene, we're going to have to clear the selection list, because that makes sense. L control without an underscore, yeah. L control under and R control, yep. So whenever we unload a scene, we're just going to have to clear the selection list. I want that to be more of an editor-centric thing, because the context of object selection is, when you think about it, more of an editor-centric thing than a level-centric thing. I'm not going to have an editor where you can like edit multiple levels at once, so it doesn't really make sense to like keep it at that level. No pun intended. The Ray A-B intersection up close is not working. At a quick glance, you were using the slab method. Yeah. If you want, I can take a quick look. Yeah, it was a slab method. Yep. But it's basically selecting. I just need it to like not select things rather, when the camera is inside of that thing. So that was here. And I just can't brain tonight and think like what the thing is that I need to change in this. I'm thinking it's like here. I just can't think off the top of my head what I need to change there to make that not happen. Because I basically just don't, like, if the origin is inside the thing that it's trying to select, I don't want it to select that thing. AKA behind the camera. Well, it's not completely. Yeah, so I did that, right? That was like, I booted out false here. If it's negative. But that's only if it's behind the camera, which it's not technically, because the camera is inside of it, so it's not technically fully behind the camera, if that makes sense. It's still like there's part of it still in front of the camera, which I think is the issue. I mean, if I probably if I moved past the halfway point, then it would probably work, but that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. That obviously wouldn't work with parented objects because everything is going to be centered within that. Whatever the origin may be. Yeah. You're talking about... where was that? Yeah, you're basically saying this, right? If min is less than 0, right? Return false. This is what I tried before. It didn't work. Whoops. Negative t min means is behind the origin. Yeah. So this is what I tried before and it didn't work. So, yeah. I mean, I could try it again, but... if I go here, right? So, for example, I have this outer object here, which is the portal, right? And then I have this inner object, which is the static mesh entity, right? So I'd essentially want to move inside of this, right? Which I am inside of it. If I look up and around, I can see that I'm inside of it. But when I click it, it still gives me everything. It still gives me the port. I think it's if it's behind the camera, the min actually merges with the max, and they both are equal. That could be it. It's one of the two. Oh, you're saying if these... Oh. Well, I guess it would have to be... I'd have to check that with some sort of epsilon, right? So... it's one of the two. It's like it collapses. Yeah. So you're essentially saying it could be this, right? But like... if min minus max... But then I would have to do a check against these guys because it might be ever so slightly off. Yeah. Which that's essentially what this k-float compare does. Does exactly that. Yeah. It's just so I don't have to type that like in my user code all over the place. Why is this not... There we go. You might be right about that. All right, so I'll go in here. Dang it. Nope. That wasn't that. It is something in there though. I just don't know exactly what it's going to be. I'll have to play around with it some more. Yeah. I was messing around with this earlier and I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but yeah, I could I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out and put it in as a separate commit so I can talk about it next stream. Let me do a fix me here. What do I want to say about this? I guess don't select if the camera, or I should say origin, is inside the thing. Anyway. I need to spend some brainwave thinking about it. Exactly, yeah. It's not something I have to write all that often, so it's like not something I have fully committed to memory. Okay, so deselect anything that's currently selected. Oh, right. We need to do that here. In case we don't get any sort of hit. All right. So what was I saying we needed to do next? I got sidetracked and now I don't remember. Multi-selection was working, I think, right? Oh, right. You can select the same thing more than once. Oh, interesting. Why is it? Why is it clearing every time again when I hit? Why is it clearing every time again? Oh, this should be and. Dingus. So we should be able to, yeah, there we go. Okay, so the other thing that we should check before we actually push this stuff to it is, does it already exist? And so I suppose we could just do a naive check, right? We could just do a B8, what do I want to call this? Add to list. And we're going to default to true. And then we'll do a U32 selection accounts equals the array length state selection list, and then for U32 I think I can actually use S here, equals 0, S is less than selection counts plus S, right? And then if state selection list equals entity, add to list equals false, and break. Oops. Oh, selection list sub I, or sub S rather. Add to list set, oh, dingus. Dingus again. Add to list. Sure. Okay, so now we should have,
you dingus.
If I click this again, it does not add to the select, well, I clicked the player mesh there. and I click the fire emitter there. But if I click the same thing over and over again, right, like notice the list only expands when I click new things. And then I can still clear that list. So, cool. All right, so that is object selection in a nutshell. The next thing that we need to do with that is we need to essentially set up our editor gizmo so that we can actually do something with the selection, right? And we should probably also like visually represent that somehow, but we can tackle that later. Let's see. Let me catch up with a couple comments here. Is that KDE? Yes, it is. Yep. Wayland. Just saw it on the homepage. Nice. Awesome. Which engine do you recommend to make an indie game? It's my first one, so I'm checking for good options to learn. Would like to live from making video games someday. Fair enough. I would suggest either Godot or Unreal, depending on the kind of game you want to make. Those are probably going to be good starter ones because there's so much content out there. If you're wanting to learn how to make game engines, that's what we're doing here. That's a completely different story. But if you're looking to just make games with a pre-existing engine, those are good places to start. If you're looking to have a little bit more control over that, over your game, then you could also look at something called Raylib, which is not quite a game engine, but it's a library that gives you a lot of tools to build a game engine of your own. But yeah, Godot is one that I usually suggest. I don't suggest Unity anymore because of past things that they've done that are kind of crappy. I don't suggest anybody goes that direction anymore. I used to, but not anymore. All right. All right, so object selection is done. We'll call that done for now. I did want to take a quick look at Illumina Scene before we actually move on to anything else. I want to look at our to-do list up here, right? So we have debug render data representation. That's done. Raycast implementation is done. Object selection via BVH is done. So really all we have left is scene serialization and writing the scene to disk. I don't think I'm going to do that on camera because you guys have seen the deserialization process, and the serialization process is literally just the opposite of that. And we've already done that before on stream, so I think I'm going to not do that on stream. But that's the only real large checkbox left on this whole scene thing before we can actually move on with it. We should also probably check the fix me's, because I think there's quite a few in here. Yeah, like not destroying the scene properly. Set active camera. We actually don't have the concept of an active camera in the scene. I'm not 100% sure that we're going to either. So I'm going to leave a pin in that one. Fix me for hard-coded max distance. So this is something we should probably fix. So raycast, we're going to do... I wonder if I should make that part of the ray. Yeah, I think I'm going to. F32 max distance. So that way I don't have to change this interface, right? I could just do our max distance. And that gets rid of that one. I will need to go to Illumina main here, where we actually create the ray from screen. And what I'll do is I'll do a default r.maxDistance of 1,000, just in case somebody forgets to set it, right? That way we at least have it in there, but then I can override it and say max distance equals, 2,000, for example. Okay, so that's that. Hard coding of colors, that's another thing we need to think about. Also dead code. So, when I'm talking about hard coding colors, oh wait, you know what? Actually, for the light, it's not hard coded, so that one goes away. I'm talking about all of these other ones for different types of entities, right? So we just kind of have this hard coded sort of color for in here. I think what I'm going to do, let me change this to color 4 first off, and then I'm going to go to the top. And let's see, this is for volume. And we're going to put this at the very top, I think. So I'll do, maybe I'll do it here. Define, let's do entity volume debug color. We'll do that. And then I'll go back. Whoops, I spelled entity wrong. Entit. That's awesome. So we'll take this. Let me just check something real quick. Okay. So we'll go back here and just paste that. And that's all I really mean about not hard coding the color, right? So we've got a few of those in there. Let's see, make this configurable. Okay, that's water material stuff. I'm not going to worry about that for right now. This is an easy one we can kill as well. So let's do... let's see, this one is for audio emitter. So we'll go to the top. And define entity audio emitter debug color. Right, and we'll do paste right there. Get rid of that one. Let's see. Pick the closest lights that actually interact with this geometry and add them to the list. For now, this is just adding the closest 8. I'm okay with leaving that for now as well. That will be a lot easier with our BVH in place though. So I'll leave that for right now. Implement this. Okay, that's terrain. Not going to do that right now. Debug geometry render data. This is the editor gizmo render data. Okay, so gizmo is next on the list for sure. And I think, yeah, this is another thing for the lights. That's fine. I think all we do... Oh, this is actually done. That doesn't need to be a fix me anymore. That's done. Here's another hard-coded color. So this is going to be for static mesh. All right, so we'll do define entity static mesh debug color. All right. Oh, you know what? These are supposed to be color for. It's the same as a vector for, but let's be a little bit more explicit, right? So that just goes there. Okay, now we are talking about unmap entity geometries should have some sort of reverse lookup. Okay, so this is just unloading. So this is, I could lower this in priority. This is really just the to-do. And then height map terrain. Yep, we know about that. Change skybox config to accept asset name and package name. Right. Okay, so that's, we can do that in the future. Okay. All right. So that's all the major things that I wanted to hit. You're making an ECS game engine? No, definitely not. Welcome, though, by the way. Yeah, we have so entities here. We have one level of what I loosely call inheritance, and I use that with air quotes because it's not real inheritance like you think of class hierarchies. So we have a base entity type that all entities sort of have these properties in common, right? And then all of our inherited types list base entity as the first member of that structure. And so that basically means that you can take a static mesh entity and cast it to a base entity, and then the first property on base entity is the type. So you can actually just take an unknown pointer and cast it to type rather, and get the entity type from it that way, or you can get it from the handle. But there's only one layer of this, right? There's never going to be, this sort of multi inheritance like structure. We're not doing that. We're just having specialized versions of entities that contain extra properties needed for that type, and that's about it. Composition, I don't know if I'd call it composition either, because that's a little bit different too. I mean, it is kind of composition, but it's also kind of not. And Skiminator, how's it going? Good to see you. What are you up to? Let's see. An extra character for elegancy may be a good trade-off. I'll ponder on it. Trying to be posh, he drinks tea now. Oh, you guys talking about the fact how I spell color. Let me see. Looks like I've missed some other comments up here too. Let's see. Vulcan, let's hope it does not explode. Yeah, I mean, it does every once in a while, but we mostly have things pretty stable around here. Anyhow, time to game, don't program too much, you'll get PCIs. I mean, okay, you're not wrong, right? But this is from years of looking at CRTs a long time ago. Coke bottles. And these are the lightweight lenses too. Just gave a second thought about the slab test. Tmin being negative definitely means the box is behind you. Is there a chance your direction is negated? In theory, if Tmin and Tmax have different signs, you're definitely inside the box. Ooh, that's an interesting point. If you write it without a U, you save on one character. Yeah. I worked on overseas code bases for so many years that it's a matter of habit at this point. And I actually don't drink tea that much. I'm still very much on coffee. T-min being negative means it's behind you. So thinking of starting a small game engine to learn in Zig. Yeah, cool. Have you made an ECS style engine before? Yes, I have. Entity component system, if that's what you're referring to. Yes, I have made those. Yep. Yearns for the T. Not so much, Arvis. Data-oriented design. Yeah, I've done that too. But again, it's like for something this scale, especially where I don't have like a large team working on it, it's really not necessary. He's lying to you. Yeah, no, I've never, I mean, I do like some kinds of tea, but like I'm not like chugging tea all the time. All right, so T-min being negative means it's behind you. Well, okay though. So if it's behind me though, then, but it's not necessarily behind me is the problem. Like, okay, so if I do, let me rebuild here, make sure. So like if I do, I have a suspicion. If I go in here and I go past the midpoint of this cube, which also happens to be the midpoint of this outer sort of cube here, I'll bet it will work. Maybe, right? So like if I just leave like just the very end of it there. Nope. It still gave me the outer selection. And I'm definitely past the midpoint as far as the camera is concerned. In fact, even if I click the water plane, it's still giving me... Yeah. There's definitely something funky going on for here, for sure. T-min and T-max are the two intersecting points. If any one of those being negative means you should definitely be not getting a hit. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm wondering why. Because in theory, in my mind, this should have worked. If I do min is less than 0, return false. Like this should have worked. And I'm not 100% sure why it's not. Maybe the hit, it's coming from the outer logic, not this code. I mean, it could be, right? So if we... Wait a minute. So if we have a hit, we return true. If we don't have a hit, right, we return false. So this is registering a hit. And then if it's a leaf, wait a minute. That seems wrong. Time to printf shit around. Yeah, exactly. This seems wrong to me. That whoops. Well, is it though? Because 0 should technically be... Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think, well, I know I'm not going to probably figure it out in 6 minutes, but what I'll do is I'm going to commit what I have. You think min being 0 is indeed the problem because you only have to apply max to it. Yeah. I really am wondering if that's the issue. But also, we're also, like, it's also starting as min here. And I don't remember why I did that. It should, I would think, it should probably start with whatever the value is here. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. It's only an output for right now, but I don't know. I mean, should we maybe try setting like min to something negative? The 0 is there to prevent you from detecting things behind the camera, which does work. But it also prevents the logic we're doing. Yeah, exactly. Like if it's fully behind the camera, that works. But like if the camera is inside of it, then it doesn't work. I'm going to comment this out too before I actually commit that. All right, so I actually have a bunch of code here that is from last stream and this stream. So I'm going to go ahead and commit all of that now and get it pushed up. Early bounds check the ray origin. Well, that's what I was thinking, right? Is like it should just be saying essentially if we're behind the origin, don't do it. But I'm thinking now, like, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be something stupid. Like, I've got a sign flipped somewhere or something like that, I think. Anyway. All right, so what I'm going to do... See all these files I've changed? I'm getting kind of nervous about this not being checked in, so... commits. Oh, you know what? I didn't do... to do... Oh, that's not actually in here. Interesting. BVH isn't in here either. All right, I'm just going to add it to the changelog then. To use for scene picking. Along with several utility functions surrounding this. And the rest of this stuff is really game side updates, so I'm not going to add that to the changelog there. Okay, so we'll put BVH and various geometry bug fixes. Thick commit, exactly. With 2 C's, almost 3 C's. Okay, so this one does not look like as many files, but it's rather large commit too. So BVH, scene picking, and game code, bug fixes. Scene updates. just because, God forbid, I have another SSD die again. I don't want to be without my code. All right. Thanks, Twitch. Yeah, exactly. It picks the weirdest things to sort of flag every once in a while. It's very weird. Let's see. If you set the out min and min to negative infinity, it will work for the check you want to do, but after the entire raycast is done, you're going to want to check if the final out min is greater than 0. So only validate hits forward. That should work. Okay, let me try that real quick. Do I actually have K infinity and like I do. I don't know why it wasn't appearing. So if we do, and then negative infinity Z, and then you're saying check if the final outmin is greater than 0. So I guess that would actually happen before this check. So if min at this point is greater than 0, then return false. Not inside the ray test on the outer function. Oh, okay. Well, okay, so you mean this check? Because this one still has to be here, because we don't actually look at this. So you're talking about here, essentially, where we'll do... Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, tmin. Oops. Tmin. And then if that's true, continue. Continue. I think that's what you're talking about, right? I think it might have a sign flip on line 27. Oh. What color scheme is this? It's my custom color scheme. I put it... It's on there. You need to uncomment the min minus 0 you commented inside the raycast, but yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. So in here... Yeah, that would make sense. That one. I think that... Wait, what? 196. Oh, okay. Oh, I see what happened. I must have actually accidentally hit the wrong key somewhere. All right. Last try for this of the night. See if it works. Let's get inside of here. Womp womp. Why are we seg faulting? D-array clear. Oh. Oh, what a dingus. How did I hit that before? I guess I just never went down that code path. Let's try that again. All right, so inside the box, no selection now. Oh, it's broken entirely. Yeah, that's definitely not right. I'm glad I committed before that. Bang said the code exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, it doesn't work at all. But I'm going to keep that and continue investigating it off camera, I think. But yeah, thank you for all the help. I do appreciate that. I'm hoping... I think it's going to be something like small and stupid like that. I don't think it's like a huge, great, big problem with like the algorithm. Is VS good for debugging? I'm using C-Line, which seems pretty good, but I haven't tried other IDEs. It's consistent cross-platform. I've never used C-Line though, so I can't compare it to that. So take that for what it's worth. It's probably regarding something related to the T-menu pass in, because inside the ray test is 100% fine. Typo again. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so yeah, once again, thank you again for all the help, and I will definitely come up with whatever the solution is, and I'll commit it separately so that we can talk about it on the next stream. All right. Anyway, let me find somebody to raid. Let me see. Same category. What do we want to raid tonight? See if I can find something kind of related. It's a few different things. Sometimes like the name of people's streams don't exactly help all that much either. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Let's see. Okay, that person's on intermission. So maybe not there. All right. I think we're going to... You know what? We actually haven't... Oh, wait a minute. Is this person also... Why do I keep finding people that are on a break? Okay, I can't raid that one. Bear with me just a second here while I find somebody. Kind of hoping to find something like maybe a smaller streamer. Let's see. VTubers are taking over. Yeah, there's a lot of those on there. Which I don't mind on occasion, but like, I don't really want to do like web development stuff either. RPG Maker, there's something I haven't seen in a while. Yeah, so it might just be, I might just have to like randomly pick and hope for the best. Because I don't see... What I really don't understand is like, I put in this window, same category, so like software and game development, and it's giving me stuff that's like not that. which is super helpful. Okay. Let's go with... Let's see what Jitspo's up to. All right. So, yeah, thank you guys very much for joining and interacting, contributing, all that stuff. I really appreciate the help, as well as, just interacting with you guys in general. If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate a follow and or sub over on the YouTube side. Yeah, thank you guys for being here, and I'll catch you guys on the next stream. See ya.